know the why human trafficking work is needed: to fight for the freedom of modern-day slaves. But love, passion, commitment isn't all you need to be an effective and successful anti-trafficking advocate. Learn the how. I'm Dr. Celia Williamson, Director of the Human Trafficking and Social Justice Institute at the University of Toledo. Welcome to the Emancipation Nation podcast, where I'll provide you with the latest and best methods, policy, and practice discussed by experienced experts in the field so that you can cut through the noise, save time, and be about the work of saving lives. Hi, Lisa. Do you have your holiday shopping done?
Girl, I just started today.
What? Okay. Today is December 20th, so you only technically have 4 days left.
Oh, girl, my money was a little funny. You know how that goes, especially around the holidays.
Yeah.
But now I'm out and about, and it's too late to order like online, so I have to get out there in the belly of the beast and in the battle and try to fight for the last pair of pajamas and the last slow cooker.
I know what you mean. I finished my shopping yesterday, and I feel like I'm ahead, like killing the game.
Yes.
But when I talk to my friends, of course, they've been done shopping since like mid-November.
Right. But most important thing, I cannot wait to find out what happens to Umaru. He is like, I don't know, so brave. And I'm not sure. I don't know that I would have survived what he went through, and let alone stand up for for myself and other people the way he does. He's just kind of an amazing soul.
Right, girl. Like the family said, he is the chosen one. I love this story because it's a holiday story, and it's so fitting that we're telling it right now, because whether you celebrate Christmas or Kwanzaa or Hanukkah or the birth of the new year coming up, this is truly a story of hope. If you haven't listened to part 1, go back and listen. And I promise you, this story is gripping. It reveals to you the worst of the world and man's inhumanity to man. And also embedded in the story is the best of people in the world. In part 1, we learned that in being the chosen one, Umaru was sent off with a religious leader only to be enslaved at 7 years old. That shows us that even though you have religion connected to you, it doesn't mean that you're indeed doing God's work. We learn in part 1 that Umaru made it through and survived the first part of his life. In part 2, we learn about Umaru's experience as a trafficking victim and how he ultimately makes it to the United States. He also gets a chance to go back and once again meet that religious leader that enslaved him. He gets to go back and talk to his mom and his dad and get their thoughts. So let's tune in, and Lisa and I will be back on the back end to discuss. And remember, at this stage, he's talking to the chief of police, and the chief of police is trying to get him to make everybody stand down and no longer protest.
I told him I don't have anything to do with this. And all I wanted was a chance to communicate with the outside world, to let them know. Apparently, the hotline for migrant workers already knew. They knew that this was happening, but they didn't know to what extent. And so the chief of police told me I could play games on his computer, but he did not have internet. He asked me, do you know how to use computers? I said, not very much, but I know how to play solitaire. He let me use his computer, and I was already certified. I was an A+ certified Microsoft maintenance. So when he was busy walking around, I connected to his internet and emailed a friend who was at this hotline for migrant workers, let them know how bad things were. And then they told one of the newspapers, Haaretz, that this was happening. And then the newspaper sent an investigative journalist to come check it out. When this journalist came in, I was the interpreter for her. She was interviewing the Darfurians and myself, and I was translating. And then she went back and they published this article. Once this article was published, people took to the streets in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem protesting to release these minors because they didn't know how long some of us were in this detention place. A lot of protests for many days. I was in detention for 3 months. And then the judge decided that these people protesting outside, since they don't want to stop, if they wanted to be responsible to sign and be guardians, he would release us to their responsibility. And that's how the journalist came back and said she would sign for me to be my guardian. And then we did all the paperwork and she took me out.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And was she from the US? Is that how you got to the US?
No, she is from Israel. She's an Israeli journalist.
Okay.
But she has a brother who lived here, who is an American. Their dad actually is a New Yorker originally. He's I think a psychologist who went back to Israel at a very young age. But this journalist was born in Israel. She has a brother who lives here. But when I got released from prison in Israel, she took me to her home, and I lived there. She asked me, "What do you want to do?" I was like, "I just want to go to school if I get the opportunity," because I already knew that there is no chance for me to get any kind of documents here. But based on the research I did, if I become a student, I will have at least a student ID, something to show if a police stops me. And she helped me through her own connections. We went to the Hebrew University. They said, "Well, we don't care about your immigration status. If you want to study, we'll let you study. Just you'll take a few tests to determine what level and where to put you." And I did take some tests, and I was admitted to the Hebrew University for Hebrew language studies. And that's how I became a student, got my student ID, and went back and got a job. And then I went back to volunteer for the nonprofit to advocate for more people who were still in detention. And at that time, this was my second year now in Israel. There were a lot of Eritreans also being trafficked, coming in with all kind of problems. A lot of them were injured because now the trafficking was getting so big. They were getting so many people, and they started torturing people and killing a lot of them. So this was my second year now in Israel and at school. And around that time, there were a lot of other people coming in from Eritrea being trafficked. And the trafficking was getting so big, they were torturing people a lot, burning people, and physically beating them. Some pregnant women were beat up so bad that they lost their babies. And actually, I have to go back before I crossed over this. One of the ways that I bonded with a girl from Ukraine who I found out was pregnant during this time at the desert, and she was really getting sick. And they would take her every night away from all the group, and then she would come back hours later. And I told her, "Listen, you can talk to me. What is happening?" She was like, "Well, what do you think?" It's like, "Okay, I understand." And so then one day they wanted to take her, and I said, "Look, I'm going. I am going with you." And they wanted to force me not to go with them. And I was like, "Well, you can shoot me, but I'm not. I am going. And if you shoot me, you just kill your interpreter and your source of more money." So they just said, "Okay, we're not taking her then. You will stay." And I started watching her, and just we stuck together. I wouldn't let anybody take her anywhere. And then I found out, yes, she was pregnant and really sick. It was happening to a lot of people. And at this time, I did not really think I would make it. So I was just expecting that they would take me. Once they get what they wanted, they would just kill me too, because there is no way we could actually cross over. I've gone to the border. I've seen how difficult it was. So I lost hope, but I ended up making it. But yes, so I was participating in protests to help these younger Eritreans who were also being detained every day. Like when I got there, they were saying they were getting at least 100 minors a day. And at this time, it was about 600 minors a day being. I got arrested again for protesting, and this time they asked my guardian to make sure I don't get into any of these into protests again. Otherwise, I'm going to get deported, or they were going to put me in adults prison to wait for deportation.
Now, this is when you're in Israel, correct?
Yes, when I was in Israel. Okay. I was already in school too, so. And so, yes, I kind of stopped going into the protests, but I would volunteer as the translator for the nonprofits. And then my guardian and other friends encouraged me to see if I could get to go study abroad out of Israel, just as a way for me to get into a safer place with documents. But it was difficult because I didn't have any documents there. I had to get everything, a passport from Guinea, which was difficult at the time, but my guardian helped me a lot to get that. These were a Jewish family, and they did not. She actually has been working as an investigative journalist, helping immigrants and refugees for many years, for over 30 years. So they just took me in without even asking any questions. And so that, to me, that was really amazing. That saved my life.
Seems like you've really been the son of many families across many nations.
Yes.
And you are the chosen one in that respect.
Absolutely.
What does your family think about all that you've accomplished now? And we're going to talk about what you've accomplished in the US, but what does your family think about this?
Well, before I came to the US, my dad passed because I had to go back to Guinea to get a visa to come here as a student. They wouldn't give me a visa in Israel. So when I went back there, that was the first time in 12 years that I saw my family. And I spent a week with them. Then my dad was going with me to the airport to catch my flight. We had a car accident, and he died at that accident. And so traditionally, I was not supposed to come here. But before he died, he told me not to let anything stop me. Just keep going. And again, this was a chance for him to explain to me why he gave me away and for me to be able to hear him apologize.
Wow.
Explain it to me. And so that helped me overcome a lot of the trauma that I was already dealing with, because that was one of the biggest ones. That was the reason I went into studying religious philosophy. I went into a religious university because I just wanted to understand how was all my childhood, how was all this about religion, and that everything that I learned also in religious university was that others, like the Jewish, the Christians, are here to get us. The only way is this, Islam. And I do not tend to just hear something and believe it. This is one of the reasons I accepted my cousins/sisters' suggestion to cross over into Israel, for me to see for myself, to live there and see how people live. And guess what? It was a complete opposite, because a Jewish family took me in, didn't care about my religion or even my race. And my guardian, actually, now that who became my mom, always encouraged me. She took me to the mosque for Friday prayers every Friday.
Oh, wow.
When I had a chance to convert and become a Jewish person to get documents in Israel, she told me, no, don't do it. You don't have to do that. We'll find a way for you to just be yourself.
Yeah.
Right? That's why I started applying for schools here and somewhere in Europe, but I got accepted to school here. When I got here, my biological mom in Africa was in a whole lot of trouble. People kind of got upset because to them, she is the one who let me come here. After all, the elders and different villages around the country came in, because my dad was a religious scholar himself. He was an imam. So a lot of people at his funeral. After the funeral, they all advised me to stay. They told me what to do from here on, how to take over his mosque and everything. And I told them, okay, I just have to listen. But I have all my stuff, all my papers in Senegal. I have to go back there to get my stuff and come back to Guinea. And then I told my mom, look, I'm going to Senegal and I am going to the US to study. I'm not coming back. She said, that's fine. I just, I don't know. We didn't have this conversation. I said, okay, that's good. So I went and took my flight and came here.
Your mom even stayed there to face the scrutiny and for you to be able to live your dream.
Yes. And so I called her one day. I told her, listen, I do remember the day that my dad gave me away. Even though I was 6 years old, I do remember everything. And you just did the exact same thing that you did that day, because she cried. She did not want my dad to do it. And now she encouraged me against everybody else, all the elders, all the traditions and the culture. She encouraged me to still come here to study. So I told her, look, you paid for it. You're forgiven. We're good.
Yeah.
But I still support them. They just don't understand because I'm still so much into education and I live here. They want me to go back and live there and take over the family now. She keeps telling me every day, it's enough school, you're getting old. But,
how did you end up in Cedar Rapids, Ohio? I mean, Iowa of all places.
Yes. So when I came to the US, I went to California, to Riverside, California, to live with my Israeli uncle who sponsored me to come here as a student. But life was very expensive there. And it was boring. I didn't know anyone but him, and he's a busy guy. So I found out that I had a cousin who lives here in Iowa, in Cedar Falls, and goes to the University of Northern Iowa. And he told me that, look, you can come here, you can transfer, come here, start over at a community college. It's like, okay, then I decided to come to Iowa and attend a community college for a semester. Then I transferred to a 4-year college for a BA in political science.
So someone who already has degrees.
Yes.
You started at a community college.
Yes, because again, with those degrees, I could not get admissions here easily. It was very difficult to come here for a PhD or a master's program, and it was very expensive. And so the easiest way to get here is as an international student, is through community colleges. Okay. Also, the colleges and universities here would not accept my degrees because they are from a religious institute back then. Now they do accept them, but back then in 2008, they would not. So I came here to community college, and so it was easy for me to just transfer because community college was easy for me. Even university was kind of easy.
And so how did you end up becoming a civil rights investigator? I mean, we hear through your life story a lot of advocacy and social justice work. It's like already in your heart, in your spirit. So how did you become a civil rights investigator?
I was inspired by a lot of books. I read a lot. I read on Gandhi, I read on MLK, I read on Mandela, and all these people just inspired me. And I always knew that I wanted to go into politics, but I didn't know. I wasn't sure exactly how I'm going to get there. But fighting for human rights has always been my dream, especially for children. I started actually advocating for children through volunteering as an interpreter for refugee families at the UNHCR in Cairo, people from all over the world. And then in Israel, I did the same, volunteered. And then when I got here, one of my mentors was the director of the Center for Multicultural Education here at the University of Northern Iowa, who is also an advocate, a civil rights activist, Dr. Michael Blackwell. And he took me on a tour, civil rights tour to the South. Right? So a lot of history is like, well, okay, when I grow up, I want to be like you. So I'm going to keep doing this. Um, but after I graduated, I worked in the college academic setting, the University of Northern Iowa Community College. And then I ended up at the University of Iowa, where I could use my languages as an advisor for international health and safety at the international programs. And then George Floyd happened. I was like, yes, I am here in an office. I am not out there advocating for anyone right now because this is a full-time job. And it is far from where my advocacy organization is. It's about 45 to an hour and a half drive between Iowa City and Waterloo, where I lived at the time. In Waterloo, we have the advocacy organization, Cedar Valley's Advocates for Immigrant and Refugee Rights. And we did a lot to help immigrants and refugees and underrepresented people. Then George Floyd happened. I was like, yeah, I need to get out in the community. This is not what my call is. I'm making a good money here, and I'm enjoying working with international students traveling abroad, but I want to be out in the community. That's why, and then I saw this position with the Civil Rights Commission, said that's a good place to be. Then I left my college work and ended up here. I was hired by the Cedar Rapids Civil Rights Commission last year in October 2020.
Wow.
And I think I just found myself, this place is good for me because I am doing advocacy work and I'm also flexible enough to do other presentations in the community to keep my helping immigrants and refugees and also continue doing my research. Yeah.
You work with refugees, you've worked with trafficking victims.
Yes.
So have you written a book, told your story? I mean, this is an incredible story.
I am working on that. I've been writing, and this is how I bonded with the journalist, my mom, who took me out of detention in Israel. She's also an author. She writes on immigration. One day she would wake up sometimes because I couldn't sleep. To this day, I don't sleep more than 4 hours a night. I always write the journal, and then she encouraged me to just write everything. And I have been writing since then for the past 12, 14 years now. I have a lot of material. I'm trying to turn it into a book. But again, it's not easy because the more time passes, I find more things that I think I should change, I should add. I just need someone to guide me a little bit better to get this book finished because a lot of people now ask me, hey, we've been hearing about your book for 10 years. We need to see it now. So,
yeah, well, because it would be a fabulous book just for people to understand sort of the paths of some people's lives. And, so I have two questions. One, how old are you today, if you don't mind sharing?
I just turned 43 last month, October 13th.
And have you ever been to any kind of trauma therapist or trauma counseling?
No, not until I talked to you during the conference. Then I decided to make an appointment, and I talked to a counselor here a little bit. I think I'm going to go from there. I have to keep working on that. One of the things that this counselor told me is about the causes of my lack of sleep. It's because to me, it's normal. I've been like this for over 20 years. Mm-hmm. And she just told me this is not normal. I need to keep working with her or anyone else, at least a counselor, to get a lot of these things off my mind and my chest. So, yeah. But yes, thanks to you, really, honestly, I did not in college, I did go to counseling, but it was just for stress. And I was always told that it's anxiety. And it was hard because I was new to this culture where I would sit and disclose everything, and they would start asking me about my parents' health history and all that. I was like, yeah, no, I can't relate to anything you are talking about.
Hey, I want to break into this episode for a moment. I want to remind you that survivors of sex trafficking experience trauma as a result. Trauma-informed care is something we learn so that we don't re-traumatize victims. However, trauma-informed care will not lower someone's trauma. We have survivors that need to heal inside. Most quality direct service workers connect survivors to needed services like healthcare, housing, legal services, and more. But these services, while necessary, won't address the internal trauma. Even when we connect them to trauma treatment counselors, they spend about an hour a week addressing traumas that have taken over their entire lives. They need so much more. Connecting someone to needed housing won't fix the brokenness inside. Arresting their trafficker allows them justice, but it won't heal the internal pain. Linking them to a lawyer won't take them to a place of reclaiming their freedom and experiencing genuine joy. Walking alongside survivors to provide support, nurturing, love, kindness, and to build relationship is critical. But they also need the tools to regain the power, choice, and voice internally. Healing the internal pain requires survivors to do the internal work. I've worked with and studied the issue for almost 30 years. I recently wrote a book outlining the 12 journeys that survivors need to go on to heal the trauma and to live the life they truly want to live. I'd love to train you to be a group facilitator leading survivors toward the internal healing they need. The training is the TNT Survivors Journey Group. Let me train you to facilitate these important groups and put survivors on their path to living the life they want and experience the freedom and joy they deserve. To learn more, go to my website, CeliaWilliamson.com, and watch the free webinar to learn more about the course. I look forward to training you and helping you help survivors to heal. And now, on with the podcast.
I know about dreams. I would have dreams and tell my grandpa. He would tell me what's going to happen. It would happen. Mm-hmm. And now I tell you about my dreams as a counselor. You tell me, well, Western psychology said this. I'm like, yeah, that's not working for me.
That's right. I know it's some of the cultural differences. You know, right. in African culture has been passed down to us in Black families. It's if you get visited by an elder and they share wisdom with you, that is an honor.
Oh, yes.
And so if you come here and say that to some therapists, they'll say, well, maybe we have this medication for you because you shouldn't be talking.
Yes.
You know, so yes. There are some cultural differences for sure. But I think even being, you know, I'm an advocate for certified, trained trauma treatment therapists, not just people who are therapists who've seen people with trauma. That's right. Not, but actually a certified person who uses a particular modality like right. EMDR or whatever. And because, right, having sleep, experiencing real internal joy, real internal feelings of safety, those things are so critical to a quality of life. And, you know, I know you're a hard worker and you have, you know, 15 degrees here from the universities and you know, certifications in Microsoft. And I mean, but being able to relax now that I know that your passion is still burning, you're still working, you know, with people, but when you come home, just to be able to just, you know, exhale and to be able to relax and sleep and experience joy, all those things are so critical now. I mean, you've been, you know, to the mountaintop and down the other side, and now it's time to enjoy a little bit.
Yeah, it's hard to admit, but I feel very comfortable. I think the International Human Trafficking Conference did help me. It did open my mind to a lot of things. I read a lot on trauma, but again, disclosing and actually accepting has been and still difficult for me because I still see my dad, and when I see him is when things are difficult and I'm feeling very guilty about everything. I speak with my mom. She tells me how hard things are back there in Africa, and I feel guilty about it. It's very hard to relax and to rest. And though I enjoy spending time with my kids, but sometimes it's hard. It just I feel down, and I'm like, I have kids here. They have never met my mom, and she wants to meet them, and all kind of thoughts. It even affects my decision making because sometimes you make some bad decisions just because it's good for somebody else. I have done that and I know it, but I don't. I mean, I think, yeah, like they say, I'm book smart, but when it comes to my own self care, it's very difficult. And trust me, I do public speaking and I talk to people about self care and what they should do. I just can't apply it on myself.
Well, I mean, I'm guilty as charged. I like to talk about it, but I also go because it's you have a feeling that you have so many miles to go before you can rest, before you can sleep, because there's so many people in need, and it's hard. And I understand the guilt of enjoying yourself while there's so much hurt in the world. It's hard to do. I know.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I can relate. I mean, nobody, no one none of my friends in my neighborhood graduated high school. No one. Like, so in many respects, on a very small scale, I have been the chosen one to go forward and help people that have had experiences. I've had friends that are trafficked, so it's hard to go and relax when you're the one that has miles to go before you could sleep and before, other people can be free. So, I get that on a very small scale, but I think your story is amazing and so authentic and genuine. And the work that you do is chosen work.
Yes, yes. I mean, I did go back 3 years ago. I went back to Guinea and actually went and saw my sheikh, the religious scholar that was my slave master. But he was so sick he could not talk, and I had so much I wanted to say to him. He couldn't respond. I just told him everything that I wanted, at least so he could hear it. Told him, listen, you were considered a holy person, but now we know you're not. I told him everything. I told him, listen, I went to all the religious sacred places that nobody in this town and village has been to. I went to Mecca many times. I did pilgrimage. Some people, you guys did it once. I did it more than 5 times. So I went to Jerusalem and I went to the Aqsa Mosque, one of other sacred place for Muslims. I went to the Jewish Wailing Wall. I went to the Holy Sepulchre. So I put all these together. So who is the holy person now? It's me or you? So I told him, listen, well, anyways, thanks to you, but I learned a lot, and now I can actually teach people, not enslave them. But
wow.
But he died last year, so like it's sad to sometimes sit and reflect on all that because just at the end of the day, I just have to forgive everybody. Just look at myself like, well, this all happened. Maybe if this didn't happen to me, I wouldn't have gotten here today. And so now I have to do a complete opposite than they did to me. Just make sure I help people. My kids will never, ever be given to a religious scholar. They will have all the opportunities to go to colleges and get the best of modern education. So what I would like people to know and to really put in practice is that their voice matters. Your voice matters, and also do not generalize, do not prejudge. You see someone claiming a refugee status, do not right away treat them simply as a refugee who is running from maybe a bad political situation in their countries. Think how they got here. These people might be undocumented for a reason. Maybe they wanted to come here legally, but somebody is holding their documents. Because again, before we leave, I would like to mention this experience I had here when I met a young lady who was brought here by um, somebody that claimed to be her uncle and aunt who won the DV lottery, the green card that the US gives. They came here and they claimed her as their daughter. They got here, turns out she's their niece. And they took all her documents, her passport and everything that identified her. They made her work for them, and she ended up, they tortured her. They abused the girl a lot, and she ended up in foster care. She left them. She had to run away from that situation. And now she's an adult, just aged out of foster care and trying to be on her own. She has all that trauma. She can't afford to get help, even counseling, because she has to live on her own now. People are victimized like that, and it's very important to pay attention to those things. Human trafficking comes in many, many different forms. Only last year, 25% of trafficked people are children. That means between ages 7 and 15, children. It's very important to pay attention to those things.
Okay, so what did you think of the interview with Umaru?
Oh my gosh, this is a movie. Like, I can't believe it. If it was a movie, you don't even have to take those liberties, to spice things up. It's all in there.
Right, I agree. There is so much to unpack here. We don't even have time really to discuss all of it.
Right, because it's so much about the depth, of torture and the terrible things people, can do to another person. But then it's also a story of incredible humanity of other people.
I know, the investigative journalist that covers the story and then takes him in.
Right. The religious Jewish person that tells him to keep his religion. He doesn't have to convert. It tells him to be true to himself.
Right. Like how he questions religion and then goes on a quest to learn about religions. And he visits historically religious sites to answer burning questions deep inside himself.
Yeah. How was all of this about religion? That was the question he had, because he'd been taken so that he could follow a religious path.
That's right. Don't you think he ended up though following sort of a religious path, if not religious, like a spiritual path, like in the truest sense of the word? His life is full of life lessons and miracles.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And being able to go back and talk to the religious leader, who was so sick that his voice, his power, is taken. I thought that was very powerful.
Yeah. And talking to his father, who was also an imam, being able to talk to him and have a discussion and get answers, and to have his father tell him not to stop going down the path that he's going. Then his father dies in a car crash.
Oh, it was devastating, but wow, how powerful is that? And seeing 600 minors a day being trafficked, I'm sure that just broke his heart, because he loves children.
Yeah. His mom, wow, who is brave in her own right to tell him to go and live his dreams. And she would stay behind to deal with the people who said he should come home. Wow, to love your son and let him go is really a selfless thing to do.
Right, absolutely. And, being visited by elders that have passed on, that's definitely an African and an African-American thing. It's truly, an honor. And we aren't crazy when we say that. It's, it's cultural. Although Grandma would say she would, dream of people who would give her her 3-digit lotto number for the day.
So that's right. And sometimes she won. But while his protesting, standing up for his pregnant friend at the risk of his own life, wow, there's just so much there.
Yeah, I mean, he suffered a lot of trauma, but I pray for peace for him. That's what I want.
That's why I say this is a Christmas story. It's really a holiday story because it's truly a story of hope and triumph, the worst in humanity and the best in humanity. It's a story of miracles. So as you sit with your family this year, going into the new year, think about the people in the world like Umaru who made it, and the many thousands of Umarus that are still struggling. Until we get to the promised land and everyone in the world has full opportunity, protections, and human rights, let's wish for a Christmas miracle for each and every one of them while we work hard in 2022 to bring freedom and opportunity to everybody in the world. We'll be back in January 2022 with new episodes of the Emancipation Nation podcast. Until then, the fight continues. Let's not just do something, let's do the best thing. If you like this episode of Emancipation Nation, please subscribe and I'll send you the weekly podcast. Until then, the fight continues.